Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Colony Drop, a Gundam podcast. My name is Brian.
And my name is Isaac. This is your favorite Gundam podcast where we talk about anything and everything that's related to Gundam. That could be the lore, the music, like the intro and outro songs, Gunpla, which are the Gundam models, a whole series, including movies and even manga series as well. Isn't that right, Brian?
That is right. And you know what else we talk about sometimes, Isaac? Is Gundam video games.
We live in a gaming world, the likes of which Brian and I could never have imagined when we were younger.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. And part of this gaming world, Brian, are free-to-play games, aren't they?
Yeah, you know, Isaac, since we were in our main gaming phase, free-to-play games have just taken off, right? I mean, back in our day, you had to pay to play the damn game you wanted. But these days, everything is free. It just comes with a bunch of upselling opportunities.
I was about to say, I almost want to put like an asterisk next to free-to-play. Like, it should almost be called free-to-download. Because
free to start.
After that, it's like, well, you kind of want to put money into it to get certain perks and just make your gaming experience better. But we're not going to bar you from just downloading the base game.
Yeah, they just nickel and dime you on your way to the top. So today, listeners, we've had several requests from many of you to discuss the game Gundam Evolution. So that's what we're going to do today, Isaac. We're going to talk about the game, what we like, what we don't like, and what did you call it? How to evolve Gundam Evolution, how you would like to see the game change.
Exactly. Yes, the alternate title was On Gundam Evolution. Because Brian and I, we'll clearly get into this over the next few minutes, but we clearly have a lot of feedback for the owners, developers, and the people running this game. But Brian, for the uninitiated and uninformed, what is Gundam Evolution?
So Gundam Evolution is a free-to-play, first-person, team-based hero shooter that was released in September 2022, and it's now in its what they call Season 3, which they're calling Defensor. Why they're calling it Defensor, I don't really know. Is that something from the Seed manga that the Hyperion Gundam is in? Listeners, if you know why it's called Defensor, let me know. I've seen a lot of people describe this, Isaac, as, it's a first-person shooter that's for Gundam. And whenever I see someone say first-person shooter, to me, I never really trust it, because if you've played games for a while, you know that there's different types of first-person shooters. They sort of fall into different categories. And the easiest way to describe this game, Isaac, is it's Overwatch, but with Gundams. Almost to a fault.
Now, unlike a lot of people, I've never played Overwatch. I'm aware of it. I've seen it. I just haven't played it. But this very much does look like a case of Overwatch was popular at the time, so they developed this off of that. And they kept the very loose format of here's a team fighting another team. Each one has different abilities. You won't see duplicates. They fight in an arena, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, this genre, this hero shooter genre, they call it, which is basically where, you play as a hero or a unique character, and you're the only character of that character on the team at one time. And you all have different abilities, meaning you're all not the same. So that's what I mean when there's different types of first-person shooters. I don't know, Isaac and I, we're a little bit older, I guess. I'll tell you my buckets, Isaac, and you can tell me if I'm missing one. So I have your Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike clones, your, Halo, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark feeling shooters. You have your Call of Duties, and you have your Overwatches, and you have your Battlefields. Am I missing any major ones?
There's like weird ones, right? Like what, Anthem? What else is out there? Isn't there one that was like Anthem?
I've never played. I don't even know what Anthem is.
Destiny, Warframe.
Yeah, I've never played Destiny. I heard it was good.
I've seen some of the gamer footage and stuff, but I don't know. I think I've been burned by Halo too much and how much that's deteriorated. But yes, getting back to your point, yes, this is one of many among the genre of team-based, unique combat games. And man, Brian, I was gung-ho going into it, but I wasn't very satisfied after a few rounds of it. Is that accurate?
That's fair. I think, we didn't play the game for like 100 hours or anything, right? So we just got a mild taste of the game. So we're definitely not, I wouldn't even say that we're good at the game, right, Isaac? We're not good at this game.
No, clearly not.
So that's caveat number one. But I would say that I think if you like Overwatch and you like Gundam, this is the game for you. Because it feels very much like Overwatch. It's very familiar if you played an Overwatch for any length of time. So unlike Isaac, I have played Overwatch quite a bit. I had some friends that were into it, so I did play it for probably between 100 and 200 hours. So not like overly a lot, but not, a brief period. I was okay at Overwatch. It was not my favorite game. So I come into this discussion with that bias, I guess. I mean, Isaac and I definitely lean more towards the Counter-Strike / Battlefield style of play, but that doesn't mean this game is bad. So if you like Overwatch, if that's your thing, this is the game for you. If that's your preferred style of first-person shooter, Isaac, this is your Gundam video game dream, right?
I would put an asterisk next to that too, because there isn't a lot about this game that's very Gundam aside from how like your suit looks.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, but if they were going to make a Gundam first-person shooter and they had to choose a first-person shooter to model it after, and they chose Overwatch, and you like Overwatch, like, man, you hit the jackpot, because this feels very familiar. And I know you didn't play it, so I guess that doesn't make that much sense, but...
Yeah, just put the money into it because you're going to want the unlocks.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of unlocks. So before we get into maybe the areas where we think they could improve, make the game better, I thought we would maybe run over some positives first so we don't get, flamed for being horribly negative about the game.
This should be a quick list.
So Isaac, on my list, I have the roster is like varied and eclectic with some really deep cuts. And by that, I mean, of all things to start off with, they put the Methis in here, the Ashimar, the Marasai, and the Mahiru. Like, you can't get mad at these guys for not putting in some obscure units, right?
True, yeah. If you think about it, there's actually two Zakus, right? There's Dozel Zaku, and then there's a regular Zaku, which kind of blows my mind why they didn't even bother. But yeah, some of these choices are very unusual. We see a turn X instead of like, a Unit 2 or an F91, which is mind-boggling as well. Yeah, sorry, turn A. Speaking of, turn X should be there too. That'd be so cool. But but I digress. I agree with you to an extent. If you think about it, boy, they put suits in there that I had no idea we'd ever see again. What the heck is it doing here? And then you play it, and it's a pretty interesting way of playing. So there's variety. I'll give them that. This is a very, you said eclectic, and then I guess that's the right term. There's diversity in this lineup. Oh boy, diversity used in a way that doesn't mean diversity, right? Diversity, mobile suit diversity. We'll go with that. I applaud that and how different it all looks. Narrowing it down even from there, the weapons. Each mobile suit has such varied weapons and types of attack or abilities, so that's great too. I feel like they did very well with that. I'm not sure necessarily they made the correct choices in those abilities, but they definitely made sure you had plenty of options, and no two mobile suits play the same, so that's good.
Do you think that the starting lineup is like too varied? Like, are they slow playing the release of the main units too much? Like, for example, if they wanted this to be really successful in America, like, they should have let off with like a Wing Gundam in there and maybe like a Strike Gundam too. Don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, a Tall Geese, a G Gundam even, a Unit 2. I completely agree, because if you sat down, really the average Gundam fan, not someone that's seen all the series, I'm not saying we're like, the elite fans or anything like that. I just mean an average Gundam fan. You sat them down, gave them a piece of paper and a pen, or a tablet, I should say nowadays, and you told them, look, we're making a Gundam game. There's going to be a line of like 12 mobile suits. Write down the 12 that should be there. This is going to be a mass-marketed, free-to-play game. I doubt half of what we got would be on anybody's tablet or paper, when they were done with their little assignment. These are such left field picks. It's interesting at the same time, but at the same time, it's also like, well, I really wish we had something else in this spot. What the hell is the Ashimar doing here?
Yeah, I like the Ashimar. I think that's a good inclusion. I'm just shocked that they didn't include any Wing representation at all. And if you've listened to our Wing review, obviously it wasn't my favorite series, but just the fact that I still meet people today and I say, oh, yeah, I do a podcast, and they say, about what? And I say Gundam, and they said, oh, like Gundam Wing. That's all I ever get, Isaac. And to not have at least one suit from Gundam Wing in here is a little odd to me.
To kind of throw a question at you, Brian, you think the Ashimar, as interesting as it is, it should have been replaced by a Wing, right? The Methis, even the Gem Sniper, it should have been replaced by something that was more of a leading Gundam, so to speak, a leading mobile suit, right?
Well, look, the Gem Sniper 2, has my heart. You know that, Isaac. So I will never say that should be replaced. But I agree. If you're going to put transformable mobile suits in here, which I think was a great idea, by the way, I'm just shocked that Wing is not in there. And like, this is a free-to-play game, and if you've played free-to-play games long enough, you know that eventually they release better versions of the ones that you have at the start, so that they can get you to buy it later on. So leading off with Wing, like the normal Wing Gundam, would have been fine, because then they can sell you the Wing Zero later on, and then they can sell you the Wing Zero Custom later on, and then they can sell you, the Glory of the Losers version Wing Gundam later on. So in terms of popularity and just spot for that transformable mobile suit, I'm just shocked that there's no Wing at all. I mean, maybe they could have put, Heavy Arms or Death Scythe or anything. I'm just totally shocked that they didn't include that one. Not that I don't like the Ashimar. So again, I just think maybe they're slow playing the units a little too much in terms of representation. And there's no strike, there's no impulse. We just got the Hyperion Gundam, which is like a real deep cut from C. That's from a video game, right? We looked it up, Isaac. I've never even heard of that Gundam before.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't want to use certain units. I don't know. But so the roster is varied, and you can tell that if you're going to play this game over a long period of time, you're going to get some really cool units, but you also might be missing some of the main ones for a while.
Well, as cool as the Gym Sniper is, Brian, the Gym Sniper 2, I still feel like, oh God, even from Double O, the sniper one from Lock On Stratus, whatever he piloted, that would be so much more welcome as the Sniper Gundam, or even on Iron Blooded Orphans like Dainsleif as a sniper, but man, these choices are just so out of left field. It's interesting to see them, but I'm puzzled, like, why are they here?
Yes. Yeah, it's really cool. I never thought that the Methus would be in the opening lineup, but I'm also scratching my head at the same time. So it's not that I dislike it. I'm just a little shocked.
You imagine playing like the same type of game, but it's like Star Wars characters fighting, and there's like no Han Solo. There's no Princess Leia.
Right.
They have Luke, but then they have like, Sand Trooper.
And like someone else that was in the cantina.
Oh yeah, they have Greedo.
Right.
Greedo, Droideka.
Yeah, what's the guy, like Bosk or whatever?
What is going on? Yeah, right. There's no Darth Vader. Instead of Darth Vader, they have like, oh God, who could they have? They have like one of the Knights of Ren. You're like, what? Who designed this game? Who picked this lineup?
Yeah, it's because, they want to sell you the Bounty Hunter expansion later on, and like Han will be in that one. So other than that, Isaac, the other two positives I had were there's a lot of customization opportunities in the game for those that want to chase them.
Right.
And then also, because they're slow playing the units, or at least it feels to me like they're slow playing the units, I feel like if this is a game that you really like, they're probably going to support this game for a long time, as long as people play it. Because if they weren't going to support it for a long time, they would have put all those units out already. And they're not out, which means they're coming later.
Well, that's a good point, but it seems like a bizarre way to lead.
Yeah, agreed.
We'll see how they roll things out. Are you envisioning that's how they're going to do it? Like, here's the Wing update, and it's just everything from Wing, we're like, oh, wow, here's the Double O.
No, I think they're going to do 2 to 3 suits every season, and they're going to be from different timelines. Because I think so far, we obviously didn't play right at the launch, but I know at least so far they've, last season was the new, remember when we started playing, the new Gundam was out. Now it's the Hyperion Gundam. So those are 2 very different units that also hold very different positions in the fandom, right? New is like, everyone knows the new Gundam. No one knows the Hyperion Gundam. I don't know the Hyperion Gundam. Am I an idiot, listeners, for not knowing the Hyperion Gundam? You let me know. I thought it was like a build Gundam that, like from Build Fighters or something.
I thought it was like a manga thing where like, oh, you had to have read Gundam Astray to understand what was happening with, and, that's why Hyperion Gundam attacks this way or uses this ability, but I digress.
Yeah. Okay, Isaac. So those were my positives. Varied roster, customization opportunities, gonna have a long support life, I would assume. So now let's get into some other stuff. When you played, who did you play as the most?
Well, in a stunning twist, Brian, I played as the Dom the most.
You don't say, really? I'm shocked, Isaac.
Let me clarify. The Dom Trooper. There you go.
That's just a wrench in your heart, right?
You know what it's like? It's like, can you imagine being told, oh, we got you a chocolate cake. We got you a chocolate cake just for you. And you get there and like you're eating it and you're like, well, it's actually vegan and there's no gluten in it. It's egg free. We use an egg substitute, but it's the same thing, It's like, no, this clearly isn't quite the same thing. Like, I appreciate the attempt. You're close to the ballpark, but you're not in the ballpark.
Okay, so you had the Dom. Did you play as anyone else besides the Dom?
Yeah, I like to play as Zaku. Shocking, right? I played as the two Xeon grunt mobile suits. But hear me out, listeners. I wouldn't say it's that challenging to learn, but it's not easy to play any mobile suit as you just start out. You know, some of these were much more user-friendly than others, especially for beginners. So these were the beginner-friendly ones that I did the best with in the short time I've played.
Yeah, the game does offer that a little difficulty rating so that you know if you're a beginner, which ones you could maybe start out with. Myself, I played as mostly the Jim, the Gun Tank, and probably the original RX-78 Gundam. So you can see Isaac and I stuck to pretty vanilla units, I would say.
Yeah.
We neither of us bought any of the premium units.
We really stuck to our alignments.
Yeah, we were exactly who you would think we would pick. Do you have any thoughts on the units in general, Isaac? So, for example, I thought the Unicorn has great healing. It seems a bit like necessary if you really want to win the game. Barbatos seems super deadly, and when it's in a good hands of a skilled player, it's very hard to counter. Barbatos is basically Genji from Overwatch, or very similar. The Jim surprisingly has that really good shield bash. So if anyone's out there playing the Jim, the shield bash is great. And the same with the healing grenade. The Gundam, I love listening to the Gundam beam rifle sound, Isaac. Playing as the Gundam is very satisfying, just firing the rifle because you can hear that sound all the time.
It's a good kind of intermediate between the Jim Sniper and another less long distance attack. Yeah.
Yeah. Hitting someone with the Gundam's hyper hammer or whatever they call it in this game is super satisfying. It's just a bit hard to do. The gun tank was especially fun when you would surprise everyone and switch to the gun tank at the very end when you're at the objective. And you need to hold it, and the gun tank walks in, and you just unload everything, and just steamroll over the opponent. So that was pretty fun.
It was interesting to say the least. Even if it wasn't our main picks for what should be in the game, there was a lot to experience, no matter what really you picked.
Yeah. All right, Isaac. So now we're at what I would call the wish list, or the biggest improvements needed. What's the first item on your list?
Okay, top of my list, and this might be the most critical part of almost any game like this. It's location, and that's a broad category. But what I mean by that is the arena, the maps, the battlefields that you're actually playing at. These were so nearly identical. It felt like you were almost at the same base, just at different times of day, at different locations of this large, I don't know, a 20 square kilometer base at different times of the day. It's just sandy with the same kind of boring looking warehouse buildings. One of them had some cannons, I guess, but they were anti-aircraft and pointed at the sky. And we never really went near them. You're looking at other areas while you do combat. It was just so bizarre that for a Gundam game, we weren't in Antarctica. We weren't in Europe or close to the skyline of North America or something. Instead, we weren't even in space or a colony. Oh God, what missed opportunities.
Right.
An asteroid. There were so many places we could have been and we should have been, but we weren't. Instead, we were just on this same boring looking Earth base, and that is such a missed opportunity for everything that Gundam has been. We have a whole Earth sphere, Luna, Side 3, a colony being under attack. The other series, all the different colonies. We can go be in a plant, and it's just such a missed opportunity that we are stuck on just these bland, generic military bases that might as well be from another sci-fi game like Mech Warrior.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I would say in general, besides the actual units, the game lacks Gundam theming in almost every other aspect. And the three main ones I would point out are maps, voice work, and music. To your point, the maps should be takes on Gundam locales that are famous. And if you told me, okay, this is a new game, we only get 5 maps to open with. Okay, well, I'm going to do a map on the moon. I'm going to do a map on a colony. I'm going to do a map in the jungle for maybe Turn A or 8th MS team. I'm going to do a map in the desert. And I'm going to do at least one in a shoal zone in space. To your point, every map that we played, I felt was a little generic, and it could be in another game, and it would not be out of place in another game.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like someone took some generic skins, and just put it on a map. And, the maps are fine. There's nothing in terms of like where you go on the map and that kind of thing, it's okay. It just doesn't really look like you're playing a Gundam game, I guess. And then plus we discussed how it doesn't really make sense that the whole map is, no one makes hallways for Gundams to run through, right? That's not how things are built in the Gundam universe. But so that always makes me laugh.
Yeah, and also the objectives in some games didn't really tie into anything that was Gundam. Like protect the missile, protect this little energy core or something like that. Like that has nothing to do with any series I've ever seen in Gundam. So that pulls you out of it. It just, going off with some of your points, the music. Oh, wow, the music. That was just so lacking. It didn't even feel like a generic sci-fi game. It just felt like, I don't know, open source music they could use.
Yeah, it just feels like a video game. I mean, video games always have original music, but that's great when they're not based on something. So when they're based on something, you kind of expect to hear the music from what it's based on. And unless I just zoned out, I didn't really hear much or any sort of Gundam music. And I understand there's some rights issues there, maybe some licensing and stuff, but you think they could get some of it, Isaac, or not, maybe not everything. But and the same thing with the voice work. A lot of these suits have recognizable pilots. You think they could get some of the voice clips to play, maybe not throughout the round, but maybe when someone's an MVP, a notable quote plays, or when they do something really good, the pilot should say something. Just in general, there seems to be a lack of Gundam theming. And actually, I didn't even think about the objectives. That's a good point. I mean, listeners, if you haven't played this game, it kind of has the same play styles as a lot of other hero shooters. You got capture the point. There was one, right, where it was like plant the bomb and disarm the bomb, which we don't do that in really any Gundam show. They don't plant bombs and go defuse them. So if I had to make my own objective, Isaac, I would say your team has to get to this shuttle or like Kurgan equivalent, try to launch in it, and then the other team has to shoot you down. And you could go through different phases of that. One team would need to try to destroy a colony or make a hole in a colony. You could just keep going, right? I mean, that to me is more Gundam-themed gameplay.
Absolutely. And I'm hesitant to say it shows a lack of research, but it maybe shows a lack of understanding for what would make a Gundam game Gundam, because right now it's kind of a generic FPS with customized characters that have Gundam skins like modded on them,
Yeah, I don't know if it's a lack of research. I mean, I think it would be a much harder game to make because those scenarios don't exist in other games. They're using what's popular, and I get that, right? They want people to play the game. Maybe the other way would be a bigger risk. I'd be curious on your opinion, listeners. If you really like this game, do you think we're being overly critical of the theming, or what do you think outside the units? I mean, I get the units; those are in your face. You play as the unit, obviously, but everything around you, it just didn't feel like I was in the Gundam universe, Isaac. Any one of the Gundam universes, right?
It just wasn't what a Gundam game should be on this scale. I feel like it left me wanting more and wishing it was done so much differently. I can't imagine how much fun it'd be playing in like space, a combat battle. Space combat with zero gravity, something like that. But this was just so much more terrestrials trapped in a fortress. But there were other opportunities that they kind of missed. It seems like people can only customize the color of their mobile suit, which I guess is okay, but I don't know. I figured there'd be other things to do, like some of the more cosmetic differences on it, like putting, stickers or kind of decals, kind of quasi-gunpla. That something like that would be cool too, yeah, to spice it up visually.
Yeah, they should call it like water slides, and they're like decals or whatever. I don't think there's stickers. You're right. You can have the little trinkets on your gun, the little like keychain thing. Mm-hmm. You can have the color. You have your profile icon, your MVP thing, and the little like pre-match thing. But yeah, you're right. They don't have decals. That would totally make sense, especially with the gunplay aspect.
Yeah, and also something that'd be interesting would be pilots. All these different characters we have throughout the series, maybe adding a certain pilot increases your rate of fire, or lets you carry more ammo and certain weapons. You have more defenses, or your special attack charges up faster. There's just so many different things they could do with having a special pilot in your cockpit. And it's just another opportunity too for them to upsell, right? Because they can like say you can customize your pilot's outfit. You use your new type ability. You can see the enemy through the wall or something like that. I don't know. So
yeah, if anything, you could be your own pilot, and to your point, you could buy clothes for yourself.
Yeah.
Do you want the blue Federation jacket, the gray one, the pink one? Do you want the Titans jacket, or as some would say, the Titans jacket? Which, Isaac, the Tetons have some great jackets, I gotta say.
They got pretty cool colors. Unfortunately, they're pretty close to pure evil.
Next on my list, Isaac, is what I felt was the biggest missing aspect of actual gameplay. And that was, I think every suit should have a melee attack, assuming that suit owns a melee weapon.
Yeah.
Like right now, there's really only 2 melee characters in the game that are dedicated to melee, and that's Barbatos and Exia. That's fine. I mean, if you want to be a melee-only unit, I get it. But if I'm playing as the RX-78 Gundam, and I can't use the beam saber, that's a crime, Isaac. I should be able to slash with the beam saber whenever I want. And I think if every unit had a melee attack like that, like a quick melee attack, it doesn't have to be overpowering. It just has to be something to fight back at close range. I think having that would maybe help keep Barbatos and Exia at bay a little bit and help them feel less oppressive.
Yeah, I can see how it takes away maybe a little bit from the Gundams that are only doing melee attacks.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, it would require rebalancing too, because, say for example, the Zaku's ability to like throw its Heat Hawk, the Sazabi as well, it would result in some rebalancing and changing of abilities for other mobile suits. But at the same time, it's so critical and so part of how battles are actually fought in Gundam. Even if a mobile suit doesn't have like a standard kind of weapon, it always had like a punch or something,
Yeah.
a kick. I'm not sure what the gun tank could do, for example, but it already has kind of like a bear hug ability kind of thing. There were many times where I felt like I wish I had a melee attack just because we got into such close quarters, and that's what they do in Gundam, but I didn't have that option, and that was just such like a bizarre limitation choice.
I definitely agree. It would need to cause some rebalancing, particularly on the melee-heavy Gundams. And that's fine. You just make the standard melee attacks on the other suits not do as much damage, I mean, that's fine. I just think you have to give them something to fight back at close range, because a lot of the fighting, I feel, in the game, you end up in a hallway or something pretty close quarters, and if Barbatos and Exia get in there, it's really hard, unless you're, pretty good at the game, which we're not. Again, we're pretty bad at this game.
Yeah.
It's doable. There was one time, Isaac, I shot a Barbatos who jumped in the air, and he blew up, and it was so satisfying. Like, I loved it. It was great. But, like, it's just weird when I step back and I think the RX-78 has no ability to use the beam saber. And I think that's just weird. When you think of the RX-78, it's always in a beam saber pose.
Yeah, and it's something that Amuro uses quite regularly, way more than the hammer, that meteor hammer.
Yeah.
Many a time I wish as a Dom I could take out the heat saber and just, cut someone in half.
Nope.
So it's very weird, especially since Barbados, like, it didn't just have melee attack, it had ranged weapons.
Right, yeah.
Definitely add that on the list of what to fix.
Yeah, and just to clarify, listeners, I know that a lot of suits have, like, a melee sub-weapon, like, the Gundam has the hyper hammer, the meteor hammer, whatever, and the gun tank has the rush, and it's kind of like an uppercut or whatever. I'm more thinking of something like Battlefield or Counter-Strike, where in Counter-Strike you always have a knife. In Battlefield you always have the melee attack button, where you just like hit him with the butt of your gun. And that's what I'm equating this to. It needs to be a quick melee attack that's themed with whatever suit you're using. So the RX-78 would use the beam, the pink beam saber. The Zaku would use the Heat Hawk, etc., etc. So that's what I mean by this. All right, Isaac, what's next on your list?
Okay, next on my list is something that's probably going to be controversial, but I still think it'd be fun, and that's a cooperative element to the game. It's all great and all fighting each other and stuff, but Gundam has such a plethora of options where, you and a group of friends in mobile suits could team up and fight something as a group, and I think it'd be really fun. So, say for example, you fight like a fleet of Musai. You guys have to really maneuver around them. Their weapons are slow, but like deadly, the big beam cannons. But you guys can fight to take down the Musai fleet. Or you fight one of the many mobile armors that appeared in the series. And you have to, take them down and successfully defeat like the Obsolus or something as a group, dodging the attack and hiding behind mountains or the big tray or whatever. Or even something that's almost more environmental. Like maybe in Wing, you have to go to the different reactors inside Libra and blow them up while fighting off waves of mobile dolls, Virgos. There's so many options I felt that would be fun for a cooperative element. Not that everybody likes cooperative games or cooperative play styles, but it'd be really cool, I think, and very much fit into Gundam, especially for something that's squad based or team based.
I know Overwatch 2 tried cooperative. I don't know how it went. So listeners, if you played Overwatch 2, let us know. Did it go well? Did people like it? I think that would be a lot of fun. I think the only thing with that is I just don't know if this system is designed for like bigger enemies, if that makes sense. I think what you want is what I want, which is, this is a bigger picture. But if I had to pick an FPS style to like do a Gundam version of it, instead of Gundam Overwatch, I would have wanted Gundam Battlefield. And I think Gundam Battlefield would have had what you're asking. It would have fit more in the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd be curious how it would play out, though. Like, if we're running around as pilots, like in Battlefield, there's really only maybe 10 vehicles at a time, at max. So 10 mobile suits on the field, I'd be very curious how that works, especially with everybody else doing, what are they doing? Are they trying to get into Type 63s or Magellas, or are they just on foot as grunts?
I mean, it could just be more suits, but just the environment in Battlefield is a lot bigger. And I think maybe that's what feels off to me about this game, is that you're in a suit like a person in a hallway, whereas usually in a mobile suit, you're bigger than the environment. You are the biggest thing. But here you're just, you're like a human in a house.
Yeah, and not to backtrack too much to the map issue, but you very much don't get the scale. So this game has a scale problem, which you wouldn't have if you were fighting in like the skyline of Seattle, or you were stomping through the California base, or a colony and crushing little buildings or something. Or this is just when you're in those buildings, like you said, you just feel like you're in a hallway. You're in an FPS shooter in a hallway, and you're just a human being with a gun. You're not a mobile suit at all. But this is, again, very much focused on why they need to update their arenas and battlefields.
Yeah, and I guess maybe the scale problem doesn't bother certain people, and that's fine. But it's very noticeable to Isaac and I guess it's just because that's what Isaac and I want. And I guess we just want Gundam Battlefield, Isaac. I think that's what we want.
Or a different game that's actually, focused very much on the scale.
Okay, next on my list is I have certain G maneuvers are thematically lacking. So listeners, if you haven't played the game, you're constantly charging up your sort of special move, which they call a G maneuver. And some of them make a whole lot of sense, Isaac. So for example, the new Gundam sends out the funnels and makes the funnel shield. I should say fin funnels. The Sazabi or the Sazabi, that one sends out its funnels in a funnel attack. The gun tank spits out its core fighter, and the core fighter flies and kamikazes into an explosion and blows everyone up. Those, I think, are thematically on point. That makes sense given the unit and what the special move is doing. Same thing with the Exia. There's Trans Am mode. I think the Barbatos, it's the Elia Vignana system. I feel like there are some that are just either off-brand or like just not as impressive on a relative basis. And so the ones that come to mind are the original Gundam. You have it's like a super napalm grenade, which I don't really understand. Is that a reference to the Adzim episode where Makuve attacked the Gundam with napalm, Isaac? Did he use super napalm any other time?
See, that exactly points out why it's such a bad choice, because we're trying to figure out what's it from. What would be even better would be like that final shot where maybe the Gundam shoots its beam cannon in the air and you decide where it lands. That way it's much more of a special that hits anybody really if it wants. So there were so many missed opportunities.
And even if I had to pick something from Overwatch, I would have picked McCree's special, where you target however many people you can in a certain amount of time, and then he shoots them rapidly in succession or something with the beam cannon. You could, attribute that to the new type powers or something.
Yeah.
Another one, Isaac, is the Jim.
The Jim Sniper's special should be it hides under a bridge and dies.
It gets shot out of the air effortlessly.
Yeah. It looks around after it puts down its visor, and it gets destroyed by a drunk enemy.
The two other that come to mind, Isaac, are the Jim and the Zaku. The Jim has homing grenades, which I've never seen the Jim use in any form of Gundam media. Maybe there's a manga out there where they have homing grenades, but I've never seen that one.
If it had homing grenades, it would have done so much better.
Yeah, that sounds like a really powerful weapon.
Because Zeon has nothing like that.
Yeah. And the Zaku, Isaac, the Heat Hawk is its special. I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with the Heat Hawk. I guess that's thematically appropriate, but it's not thematically appropriate to be the G maneuver. That needs to be your standard melee attack button. You can't tell me that The Nu gets to create its fin funnel shield. The Suzabi sends out its funnels. The gun tank gets on a kamikaze core fighter, and the Zaku gets to slash its Heat Hawk. One of those is not equal to the others.
I would actually argue that the Heat Hawk does have some problems. Like against a beam saber, the Heat Hawk is just so much more shorter range.
Yeah.
It can't really do much stabbing. But yeah, the way it's used too. Like I don't remember seeing a Zaku throw the Heat Hawk.
Does he throw it? I thought he like rushes forward and slices, right? Or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, I thought he throws it. Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. But the point is, you shouldn't have to wait a good portion of the round just to use your Heat Hawk once. It boggles my mind. So, in my opinion, the Gym and the Zaku should have like a similar special, Isaac, where they summon other Gyms and other Zakus to fight alongside them for like, 5 or 10 seconds. They do low damage. But to me, that would be more thematically appropriate because they're grunts. What's special about the
Right.
Gym and the Zaku? There's a lot of them. They're cheap and there's a lot of them. So call in for backup and, a few more Zakus land, a few more Gyms land. And so what? They all get blown up. They have, hardly any armor. But there's power in numbers, Isaac. I don't get it. Homing grenades and when one slashes the Heat Hawk, I don't think that's equivalent to some of what the other units do. You got the Zaku over here,
Right.
who charges up the whole time to use his Heat Hawk once, and then the Turne is over here letting off Moonlight Butterfly.
That kind of brings me to like my next point, which is kind of the balance issue. I mean, you just said it right now, Brian. We have Zaku's going toe to toe with New Gundam. Like, this is only going to end one way.
Yeah, and you can be a good Zaku player, a good Gym player. I think they're capable units. In the games that we played, it sure seemed, Isaac, that like Barbatos kind of had his way with you, unless you really knew what you were doing. Unicorn seemed really good, and I swear, whenever Unicorn was on my team, it was great. Whenever they were on the other team, and I was like, oh, here comes the Unicorn, I'm going to shoot him. I would shoot him, but man, he would attack me with like a whole bunch of sparkles and all this fancy stuff that I didn't have, and then I was dead.
Right.
So, and the same thing with the New Gundam. New seemed pretty powerful. I don't think it may be as oppressing as the others, but he certainly had a lot more tricks than, some of the more basic units. So, and then sometimes, Turne was, I wrote down Turne is a bit doofy because like I'm running as fast as I can as the Turne, and then here comes just the Unicorn flying in with his beam Gatling with all these like sparkling things, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try to shoot you, with my beam rifle, or try to hit you with the finger thing. But then I always missed and hit the wall. It was always very embarrassing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I was wondering, Isaac, do you think maybe they could balance it by letting some of the more basic units respawn faster than some of the more complicated units?
I'm not even sure that'll help though, because like there's like a compounding effect. Like a group of mobile suits in like a corner or like a hallway, like they'll always plow through almost any other suits in their way, even more so if they're Gundams. The best stuff feels like it was saved for the Gundams. They have abilities and attacks and stuff that just blows away the other suits. So it's just, again, it's a balancing issue. I don't even know if like treating the handicapping essentially is what you're doing. And I mean that in the gaming sense. Like you're going to just have the grunt suits respawn faster because they're just such meat grinder little mooks. I really don't think that approach is right. At that point, I think the solution then is, okay, it's a Zaku, but it's clearly an ace commander Zaku, and it's customized, and it's got these abilities and weapons. It's like Char Zaku. At that point, it's like, okay, yeah, we can definitely go toe-to-toe.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously Isaac and I are not the best at this game, so we're not, I can't play the game at a high level, so I can't tell you how it should be balanced. All I can tell you is, in the matches we played, it's certain things definitely seem to me more oppressive than others, and that could just be a skill gap. I admit that, but it just doesn't seem. I do think there's an inherent gap in the abilities of some of the suits in terms of their ability to impact your team and get the win. Because like if someone times like a new special really well, they can really capture the point. Like they can protect their whole damn team, it seems, or they just stand in front of the doorway with the shield. Like it's pretty hard to get in there.
Yeah, we don't really have the experience for that, but there definitely seems to be tiers for these mobile suits, and some of them are just so much more useful in a lot of situations than other ones, and some of them have a much better default attacks than other ones. I can't think of a situation where the Gym's ordinary attack is somehow the best choice for a situation.
How dare you insult the beam spray gun?
I mean, or even going further than that, the gun tank. As great as it is having infinite ammo, that just worrying about overheating, those bullets just go everywhere.
Hey, they auto aim, I think. I like the gun tank a lot. I loved firing the cannons. I thought that was fantastic, especially when you nail someone like right on. Oh man, they probably don't die, which is BS. If you take the gun tank cannons, you should die.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of gun tank might have the most appropriate special attack, which is the core fighter boosts out of it, and it's essentially a guided missile.
Yeah,
it's the Ryu Jose special. Something else I'd like to see though would have been, it would have been cool to see the version of gun tanks from the 8th MS team.
Oh yeah.
Going further from there, the Guff. Oh my god, the Guff should have dominated close combat, but it's not even in the game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I think of this game and say it was gonna focus on terrestrial close quarters combat, the Guff Custom seems like an auto include.
God, you imagine that sword? Jesus.
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
Even the minigun that it has. Oh man, that'd be awesome.
You should be able to ditch the minigun like he did in the series to get a little faster or something. I think that'd be fun.
Sure.
Isaac, next on my list I love the transformable mobile suits. I thought that was a cool include. It's like a totally different way of fighting, but they need to let them transform longer and give them better controls in the air.
Yeah, I agree. It's cool being in the air, but like since that's kind of the main point of these mobile suits, it should be like, I don't know, 30 seconds, 25 seconds. It's just such a lost opportunity just having them essentially get in the air, you get your bearings, maybe you get off a few shots, and then you're back on the ground.
Right. I would say it's what, 5 to 7 seconds tops, right?
Yeah, not enough to do much other than like startle the enemy. And maybe that's their role, where the enemy kind of has to like look into the sky for a little bit. Another missed opportunity. Like if we're going to have suits that go in the air, they should go in the air.
Yeah, and go all in on the air combat if you're going to do it. I feel like we've got 1 foot in the door and sort of 1 foot holding back and saying maybe that's too powerful and we don't want it in the game.
Yeah, I would balance that out by saying, look what we have to do. On the ground, they're really not as effective. Sure, they can still fight, but in the air, that's where they shine. So most of the time, they're going to be in the air. The person playing them, if they're on the ground, we know something's wrong,
Yeah.
So it should very much be a case of if they can fly, they really shine in the air.
Yeah, you could even go so far as to enable or disable one air support slot on the team. And then they could add more transformable mobile suit characters and make them better, let them fly longer, but just limit it to 1 per team. That could be a solution. I don't know. I because if they've opened the box now, Isaac, I would like to see them add, the Zeta Gundam, the Zeta Plus, the Wings, the Wing Zero, some of the ones from Gundam X, was Airmaster.
An Ares.
Yeah, exactly.
A Taurus.
What was that one I really hated from Seed that had the big Gundam face on it? That was ridiculous. But put that one in there.
I don't know, Calamity or something.
If you're gonna do it, go all out. Give us the transformable mobile suit combat. That's cool. I think we need more of it. Even if it makes it harder to hit them, just limit the amount of people that can play as them on the team.
I don't see it getting fixed, but we can hope.
All right, Isaac. I think that was the end of our lists. My next thought I had was, what are some new units that you would like to see, and what do you think their G maneuvers would be, or what do you think a defining factor of that unit would be that makes them different from what's already in the game? So as an example, we only really have one sniper in the game right now, and that's the Gym Sniper 2. Mm-hmm. My thought was, okay, if I was going to add a new sniper, how would I differentiate it from that sniper? So my first thought, Isaac, was to 8th MS team with the original Gym Sniper, and I would give him the solid beam sniper rifle, the one that was attached to the generator.
Oh, okay. Wow.
It would obviously, you'd have less shots and you have to be a little more careful, but could you imagine getting cut down by that thing? That'd be pretty cool, seeing that in the match.
You could just give it like a massive recharge time, but once that solid beam's out, like it'll go through like, multiple suits, and like you dare not cross through it because it'll cut you down.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you could do with that. My kind of sniper pick would be Dierka's mobile suit from Gundam Seed.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty much just a glorified long-range beam rifle. So I see no reason why they can't just do that. It'd be probably similar to the Gym Sniper, but it would cosmetically at least look like a Gundam.
Yeah, it'd be more of like a heavy artillery almost, I think, right? That was the Buster, right?
You're right. I think that was a Buster. I was about to say Duel.
Okay. That's Isaacs. Oh boy. Okay, next on my list was I want the Zeta in there with the as a transformable, Wave
Ah.
Rider mode. But then for the G maneuver, it either has to be a suicidal Wave Rider crash, spoilers from 1985, or
Mhm.
when he overloads the bio thing and the beam saber gets really big and he does the really big slash. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, Zeta has such a prominent role. I think it should be in there. Speaking of Zeta, what do you think about the Gundam Mark II being in there?
Yeah, why not? I mean, you could even give him the G Defensor attachment, pseudo transformable. I'm a big fan of the Gundam Mark II,
Yeah.
just in looks alone, Isaac. I think it's a good looking redo of the original Gundam.
On that note, you could even, for the co-op, you could probably squeeze in the Psycho Gundam. That'd be a cool thing to fight.
Oh, there you go.
But I feel like, even though I'm not a big fan of Wing, the heavy arms would be the perfect to have some type of special area effect attack. Like, it's not necessarily going to kill everybody in the area, but it does enough damage to everybody in the area. Like, we all see heavy arms, it just opens up all its flaps and shoots all its missiles and its little Gatling guns all around it. So something like that would be a pretty cool special ability.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could add all the Gundam Wing Gundams, and they would fit into different roles, right? Wing would be a good transformable one that has huge 2 or 3 really good shots, and then it's kind of out of ammo. Death Scythe and Shenlong, Taku, whatever you want to call it, would be great additions to the melee fighters. Heavy arms would be a really good heavy artillery Gundam that just sits there and walls off an area with hail of bullets.
Sure.
And then Sandrock, I mean, I guess you got to do something with Sandrock, guys. I guess you could make him like a tank. God, Sandrock's so boring.
Yeah, it's like, if we do close quarters, like Shenlong can kind of do that better, or even Epion. So it's kind of weird having Sandrock in there also, but it could do something. It summons the Maganat core. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah. Epion would be cool, and that's like transformable and close range.
Exactly. Yeah. This is going to be a tangent, but I felt like it'd be cool if during special attacks, like some games do this, like in the corner of your screen would be like a little cartoon, like an animation of just the character or the pilot that's known for that mobile suits, like saying something or doing an attack.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to the theming,
Yeah.
the theming problem. I mean,
Right.
if you're going to embrace the Gundamize, go all in, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's just, again, very weird decisions that were made.
Okay, and then I will be remiss, Isaac, if we don't recount the PTFO story from our last encounter. So, I love first-person shooters. Isaac and I have played Counter-Strike off and on since it's been 20 years now, Isaac, which is ridiculous. And so I've heard every insult in the book. However, during our last match, someone yelled at me to PTFO, which I assume means play to the objective. Even though I was the first one into the objective when we lost, and I was holding the objective. So I'm not really sure how much more I was supposed to play to the objective, Isaac.
Clearly you weren't.
I guess not. But I just want to point out, listeners, that just like any other FPS, the community is just as rude in the Gundam universe.
Yeah. We take our toxicity and we just pour it into the toxic wasteland that is the chat and the voiceover communication.
So if you take nothing else away from this episode, listeners, it's that you should PTFO.
Focus on the objective, do what the other more experienced players are doing, and please stay as a group. If you're by yourself, you'll be crushed by like the team of mobile suits coming around the corner.
Yes.
In lockstep.
Especially if you're in a gym. That was always my favorite, playing as the gym, Isaac. It was like I'd look through the hallway and I'd see the new coming, the unicorn coming, the Sasbi coming, and I was like, all right, I got this. And I would hold up my 1 year war steel shield as the gym and just prepare for the worst.
Just take direct shotgun blast from the Sazabi.
There's nowhere to run. I must face them.
Yeah. This is perfect. I can't wait to throw my homing grenade.
But that's where I went wrong. I didn't PTFO. So
no, PTFO, everybody. PTFO.
All right. So what's your overall thought, Isaac? My thought on this game is I think, if you like Overwatch, if you like that style of play, and you just want to kind of play Overwatch but with Gundams and play a long-term free-to-play Overwatch-style game with Gundam themes, it's going to have a lot of support. I think you'll really love this game. I think you should check it out. If you're looking for a more, I don't know what the right word, Isaac, is, but more tactical, more Battlefield-style more realistic Gundam game that's a first-person shooter. This probably isn't that. It doesn't mean it's a bad game. I just think that Isaac and I have certain inherent wants from a Gundam game that maybe steer us away from this one. So while it's not my favorite Gundam game, I probably won't be spending too much more time with it. I do think there's a big chunk of FPS players out there that would really enjoy it, so I think you should try it. If you're a Gundam fan, I think you should at least try this game, because it's free to play, Isaac, right? I mean, not every day do you get a huge budget free to play game like this. So you should definitely try it and see if it's for you. What do you think, Isaac?
I agree completely. This is a game that if you're a Gundam fan, just give it a quick casual play. You don't need to spend, $90 on customizing it, your suit or unlocking stuff. But as a Gundam fan, as someone that really appreciates the lore and all the different mobile suits, the abilities, the things we've seen characters do with their suits in different series and movies, I have to give this game a 2 out of 5 Haros. Needs improvement, needs balancing, needs a lot of changes to really make it feel more like a Gundam game rather than sort of a just quasi-generic mod of a game that has Gundam skins over it. That's why it gets 2 out of 5 Haros.
Yeah, my rating, honestly, is going to be PTFO out of 5. So,
make of that what you will.
All right, listeners, let us know what you think about Gundam Evolution. Are we just way off base here? What do you think about the theming, the maps, the units? What units would you like to see added? I especially want to hear your deep cuts. We got the Mahiru in this game, Isaac. I feel like if you can get the Mahiru in this game, you can get anything.
Yeah, and if you've played this game, give us your feedback, what you think about it. Maybe you play this game a lot. Maybe you downloaded it and then uninstalled it the same night. Or if you haven't played this game, but you're a gamer, tell us what kind of Gundam game you would like to see. What would make you either actually pay and download it, or if it was a free-to-play, what would actually make you want to give up precious gigabytes to download the game and play it regularly? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see what you got to say next time on our mailbag episode. Brian, take us out.
All right, listeners. Before you go to sleep tonight, stand next to your bed, salute that framed picture of Amuro Ray, the greatest of all time, and recite our Federation pledge. Into the night, Captain Bright. Londo Bell, Zeon fell. Liberty and justice, Amuro trust us. You said your farewell, now we'll give him hell. Good night, everybody.